Okay, what is the magic number when it comes to volume? When it comes to weekly mileage to train towards a marathon, or to train towards a half marathon, or a 10K, or a 5K, or even an ultra marathon? What's the magic number? Now, I got this question in the comments below, and it's brilliant. It's from Paul Beach. The other thing that I've noticed for me is having a total volume per week of around 40 miles hit over multiple weeks and months is far better than just hitting 62 miles, 100K for 3-4 weeks, then just feeling physically and mentally drained and needing rest anyway. I do think of total volume, but over a year. So it can vary according to what's going on in my life. My own personal figure is 2,000 miles a year. That's really interesting because it answers the question. And you've got to think about what is going on in your life in terms of what needs your attention and how important, how much of a priority is your running training. For some of us, we're obsessed with it. It's everything, and I completely get that. But even if we're obsessed and it means it's literally priority number one, there are other stuff going on in a typical person's life, especially if you've got a full-time job, especially if you've got a pressure job, if you've got demanding family, if you've got small children, if you've got bills to pay. Stress is a big factor in terms of getting the very, very most out of your body, determining performance. Stress is a big factor. Stress is a big factor also when getting the right number of hours sleep, and sleep is the next factor alongside stress that is going to be a really good predictor of what you can actually achieve in your running performance. And I'm not talking about just race day. I'm talking about putting together consistent weeks over the months, over the training schedule, so that you put yourself in peak physical condition to run your fastest time ever. We're all talking on social media, including YouTube, about running personal bests, about training towards personal best. It's got to be a holistic view. And that's why when I'll do a coaching call, it's a long call about what have you been doing? What are you currently doing? Really, what's the last couple of months like? What do you want to aim for? How feasible is that? What does your life look like? There's so much that goes into it. And it's because of that, everybody is different. And so what works for one person doesn't work for another. Often when I'll give out a plan, people want to do more. And I love that. You can see from the comments below that people are doing the work who are watching this channel. You can see that because the questions are intelligent. The questions show that they're doing the work, and there's no way that they could be asking those questions if they weren't doing that work. And I love that. It's my favorite thing about this channel. Often people want to do more than what you give them. Is it just this, and then the rest of it, it's not so many hours. And we equate, okay, if you did double the amount of hours, would you be twice the runner? If you did double the amount of long run, would you be twice the runner? Like, we need to look at, we want to progress, and we want to progress gradually over time. It's going to take patience. It's going to take consistency. And that is not the exciting stuff, but it doesn't take a long time. We're not talking years. We're talking, like that comment, boxing it off over months. So that the consistency, whether it's 40 or 50 miles or 30 miles, whatever that is to you, and you're doing the long run, and it kind of makes sense based on the total volume, you're doing the interval session, you're gathering that speed, you're gradually inserting speed. If you think about the main ways you can get injured, whether that's too much speed, too much long run, too much overall volume, too much of a different terrain, or too many hills. 5 different ways. If you increase 2 of those, you're putting yourself in an injury risk. If you increase 3 of those, you're in very, very risky territory. And so everything has to be gradual. And if you think about the typical week, whether you're running 4, 5, 6 times a week, ideally you're having a rest day. So you can freshen up on one day, give yourself that so that everything else in your life can take place on that day. If you're thinking in terms of that structure, if you're thinking in terms of, okay, we're just going to progressively get a little bit further on the long run, and that's going to improve by 10%, and we're already doing 20 kilometers or 25 kilometers. That's an extra 2 or 2.5 kilometers on that long run. That's going to affect the long run and the total volume of the week. If we're then doing a little bit more on the interval session, it might be an extra 500 meters, but it's an extra 500 meters fast. So the speed is increasing and the total volume is increasing. Both of those things are happening together. The long run's increasing, the interval session's increasing in volume, the speed is increasing, and the total volume's increasing. Again, we're in a risky area. And if we get injured, not only do we take a step back, and so we're not able to improve for the next 1, 2, 3 weeks, however it takes to heal from the injury, also having this bad relationship with running, where running, and especially training hard, leads to injury. That's what we're thinking. And we don't want that relationship with running. We want to be moving forward, and we want the progression curve to be really, really nice and exciting in the beginning, but to be cautious, and then to continue to make the same level of gains as we improve as runners. Because we'll get those initial gains. If you've never ran before and you just start running, you're going to move forward, you're going to get faster. Even if you have no clue of what you're doing and you just go out there and you run twice a week, you're going to get faster. Then there'll be a point where you start to think about what you're doing and you start to add some smart running and some structure into it. And then you're going to hit another wave where, oh, okay, structure. The speed work's really nicely working. And it's feeding into the long run. And I'm building endurance. I'm going to sign up for a race. And you hit that, and then all of a sudden you get to another level where you're like, oh, okay, this is what this means, and this works for me, and this doesn't work so much. I'm going to do more of that and less of that. And you hit another wave. You've got to keep riding those waves and keep it exciting for you so that you continue to do it, so that you continue to keep the habit strong, but you don't do too much so that you fall back and you have setbacks and you have that relationship to running, which means pain, it means injury. Shouldn't mean that. Hopefully you can run far enough that eventually it means discomfort in the last couple of miles of a marathon, but that's a different thing altogether, and it's not pain when we look into it. So in terms of the total volume and the mileage, it's very individual to you, and you've got to think about what you can do at the moment, what it looks like in your life, how many times per week can you commit to. It's way better if you say, okay, I can commit to 3 runs a week, and they can happen on these days in order that I can run 150 times over the 50 weeks. And instead of going, okay, I'm really excited about it. We've seen it in gyms. We see it all the time in gyms. And as runners, we notice this about people who lift weights. They get excited for the first 2 months of the year, and then March, the gyms are empty, nobody's doing it again. We don't want to be that as runners. We want to be consistent. We still want to be in the gym lifting weights to propel us forward faster with big glutes and big hamstrings, but we want to be consistent. We want to be disciplined because we realize it's the long game. And if you play the long game, you can ride those waves. And that's, for me, the exciting part. It's not just about running fast, although I love running fast. It's about the self-improvement. It's about, okay, that makes sense, and now that's working. And then finding out from other people what works for you, what doesn't work for you. Okay, this really works for me. And again, it's very individual. So good luck with that. I hope I answered your question, and I hope I didn't try to dodge it. And if you're getting anything from these videos, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. If you've got more great questions, please pop them in the comments below.